Through a floor-to-ceiling window of glass, the warm spring sunlight pours down. At the center of a pure white tablecloth, there's a charming centerpiece made of mainly white and yellow flowers with a sprinkling of green, and around it are white plates and silver cutlery all set up. Beside me, Sophia, dressed in a pure white wedding dress, sits, her face overflowing with a smile that is even more beautiful and happy than usual. Without any feeling of stiffness, I'm glad we chose this restaurant as our wedding venue, considering not only ourselves but all of our guests could enjoy it. I have no doubt it's going to be the best day of my life. As I was thinking that, a bucket of cold water was poured over me in the form of a speech.
Well, I heard that Mr. Davis only finished high school. It's surprising that Miss Taylor, an elite who graduated from a top-tier university like me and works for a listed company, would choose someone like that as his marriage partner. I suppose it's that hardship is worth buying, right?
Those words were spoken by Mr. Wilson, Sophia's boss at work. It seems like he thinks it's funny, but nobody is laughing, and an uncomfortable atmosphere has settled over the venue. To bring up that conversation at a toast. While thinking that, I remembered that time.
It's finally the wedding.
In the bridal suite, Sophia, though nervous, spoke to me with an excited expression, and I smiled back at her. Yeah, let's make it a good day. Then, my phone buzzed with a notification. Seeing my face darken as I read the message, Sophia asked if something had happened. Lucas and the others' plane is going to arrive later than scheduled, so they might not make it in time for the speech. We were expecting 3 people, including Lucas, to give toasts as the groom's principal guests. I left Sophia in the bridal suite and stepped out. I immediately told the master of ceremonies about the situation, and we decided to move forward with the toasts from Sophia's side first. Also, to let him know about the change in order, I started looking for Mr. Wilson. Since I didn't know him personally, I asked Sophia's co-worker where he was and then approached him. "Excuse me, Mr. Wilson." I asked him if he could give his toast first because the groom's principal guests were running late, and he readily agreed.
But marrying Miss Taylor, huh? You're a lucky man. She's the idol of our department, no, our company.
I felt like there was more to his statement than just a simple congratulations. Sophia had once mentioned that her boss was a bit too friendly and it bothered her, and I wondered if he could be the one she was talking about. By the way, Sophia and I had already registered our marriage, so her surname had changed from Taylor to Davis, and she had already informed her workplace of this. I guessed he was just used to calling her by her maiden name, but it also felt like he was doing it on purpose.
I guess the partner of Miss Taylor must have graduated from a famous top-tier university, right?
I felt something catch, but I answered him. I didn't go to university.
Oh, so Mr. Davis is a high school graduate then?
Yes, I am. I am embarrassed to say that I do. At this, Mr. Wilson's polite demeanor completely changed and a condescending look crossed his face.
What? There are still people who only finish high school these days. I've lived for over 40 years and this is the first time I've met someone who only finished high school. For your information, I graduated from a top-tier university.
Even his tone changed. Feeling that he was trying to mount me, I casually brushed it off. That's impressive. I'm sorry for the sudden change, but I appreciate your understanding. When I returned to the bridal suite, Sophia asked if everything went okay with the change in toast order, and I told her it was fine. If I had told her about everything that happened, It was clear she would be upset. I didn't want to ruin the happy mood. After the ceremony, we moved directly to the reception. After a quick touch-up, I entered the venue and nervously delivered a welcome speech. When I glanced over, 3 seats at the groom's side of the head table were still empty. I had requested the MC to forego any introductions about the bride and groom's background because we wanted a casual wedding. Normally, after the toast, it would be time for the groom's side to give their speeches. But as Lucas and the others had not arrived yet, I asked the bride's side to begin their speeches. Mr. Wilson stood up and walked forward. As he received the microphone from the MC, the speech began. It started with the customary words of celebration, and then a story came up about how Sophia had been a sort of idol at their company. But then the mood changed.
I understand that Mr. Davis is a high school graduate. It's surprising that Miss Taylor, a top-tier university graduate and a professional in a listed company, would choose someone like him as her spouse. I suppose hardship is something you should pursue, even if you have to buy it.
Although he seemed to think his words were funny, no one laughed and an awkward atmosphere filled the room. Undeterred, Mr. Wilson continued.
Mr. Davis, who not only earns a small salary, but if he loses his job, and when Miss Taylor took on these hardships, please remember that I, a dependable person, am always available.
I was taken aback by Mr. Wilson's audacity, as he looked down on me and even tried to appeal to Sophia, the bride. But Sophia, on the other hand, was furious and stood up.
Mr. Wilson, enough is enough. What's your intention?
Mr. Wilson was taken aback by Sophia's momentum and made excuses with a forced smile.
Well, I was simply concerned about you, who is marrying a man with such low education and income.
At that, Sophia sighed and murmured with a pitying expression.
Really, Mr. Wilson, you don't know anything.
But Mr. Wilson didn't understand Sophia's words.
What do you mean? I don't know anything.
Just then, a faint honking sound could be heard from outside. When I turned my eyes to the restaurant window, 3 luxury cars were approaching in succession. The cars each parked in the restaurant's parking lot. My friends, dressed in suits from well-known foreign brands, appeared, and when they noticed us watching, they waved with a smile. Mr. Wilson was stunned, as if he didn't know what was happening. They lowered their heads as if to apologize for being late as they entered. The MC announced the arrival of the late guests from the groom's side and said, "Sorry to rush, but could you please give your congratulatory speech to the bride and groom?" We waved Mr. Wilson off with smiles and welcomed Lucas and the others. After apologizing for their late arrival at the important wedding, they each gave their words of celebration.
We understood that we wanted a casual wedding, so there's no need for a resume introduction, but as his friends, can we introduce William's background?
The venue was stirred by Lucas's question. When I met their eyes, they smiled knowingly. Lucas, Daniel, Ethan, and I, the 4 of us, overcame the difficult exams and entered a challenging junior high school known as a feeder school. After graduating from junior high, I was supposed to go straight to high school, but my father was assigned to work in France and the whole family moved there. The school system in my area is 6 years of elementary school, 2 years of junior high school, and 4 years of high school. I decided to advance to first grade high school, taking language classes because it was difficult to keep up with French in the local area. The plan was to stay until high school graduation, but my father's work ended after 2 years and we returned to America. I could have transferred to a high school here, but I wasn't interested and decided to start my own business. My mother was worried, but my father agreed with my idea.
If you're going to do it all on your own.
With that in mind, I started by saving money from part-time jobs. During that time, I had a reunion with my junior high school friends. When I told them that I was thinking of starting a business, they all joined in. They were all thinking of starting their own businesses while in college. Lucas was majoring in business administration, Daniel in economics, and Ethan in information technology at college. We each used our knowledge to expand our networks and steadily prepared for starting our businesses. 2 years later, we pooled our money and started a business. Just 1 year after starting, we began making profits and steadily grew our business. Now, 10 years later, we are even doing business with major companies in Europe.
Indeed, William is only a high school graduate, but now he is running a successful business.
Lucas speaks, followed by Daniel.
Mr. Wilson will never have to shoulder the kinds of burdens Sophia does. Besides, considering your position, I don't think you make even a tenth of what William earns annually, so please don't worry. Ha ha.
Upon hearing this, the blood drains from Mr. Wilson's face. As it turns out, their friends at the wedding reception were filming and live streaming the event. That's how Lucas and the others were able to watch the proceedings even from afar. They'd naturally heard Mr. Wilson's speech as well. They were probably pissed at his behavior and decided to introduce my accomplishments to put him in his place. Mr. Wilson was shrinking into himself throughout the reception, as though he didn't know where to put himself. I heard later from Sophia's colleague that Mr. Wilson had indeed been after Sophia. He had accepted the wedding invitation and was asked to give a speech, and he seemed to have been harboring a one-sided grudge against me. That's why he gave that speech, trying to look down on me, but he got a perfect counterpunch. After the reception ends, we see off our families and relatives. It's time for the after-party with friends only. The moment the reception ended, Mr. Wilson dashed out of the venue. Aren't you tired? We still have some time before the after-party. Why don't you rest a bit? I called out to Sophia, but she shook her head lightly.
I'm fine. But about Mr. Wilson, I'm sorry. I never thought he'd do something so awful.
They say love can make people do crazy things. I guess Mr. Wilson was no different. But for a man in his 40s, his actions were overly childish. A lot of Sophia's colleagues and seniors were attending the wedding. Mr. Wilson's position from tomorrow onwards is going to be quite a difficult one. I'm sorry we missed the ceremony. Lucas and the others who stayed for the after-party apologize after confirming that the other guests have left. It's okay, I'm glad you could make it to the reception, Sophia and I respond, both of us smiling.
I was upset when William was being ridiculed, but everyone's speeches made me feel a lot better.
We all burst out laughing, recalling Mr. Wilson's behavior. I thank Lucas and the others again. I'm really glad that I could reunite with Lucas, Daniel, and Ethan and start a business together. If I had started the business alone, I would have never achieved the success I have now. It's often said that co-founding a business with friends is difficult. Sure, we've had our disagreements and countless fights, but we've managed to overcome numerous challenges together, forging even stronger bonds. However, they all credited me for the initiative.
We wanted to start a business, but we lacked the courage to take the first step.
It was William who gave us the push we needed.
Seeing William forge ahead alone motivated us to take action.
And then the three of them look at Sophia.
Our lives changed when Sophia introduced us to William.
It turned out Sophia actually went to same high school. Back then, we weren't dating, but I like Sophia, and apparently, she also had a soft spot for me. When I told her I was moving to France, she asked for my contact information, and we'd been in touch ever since. It was Sophia who suggested getting together with our high school friends Lucas, Daniel, and Ethan after I returned from France.
Exactly. You should be thankful.
With that, Sophia joked with a smirk, but I answered with a serious face. I really am grateful to Sophia. She encouraged me when I was feeling lonely and isolated in France, never abandoned me even when I was just a high school dropout and broke, and she's always been there to support me. I'm so lucky to have met the best partner. Lucas and the others chuckle, obviously pleased.
Stop it. If I start crying again, I'll have to fix my makeup.
Even as she says this, Sophia looks happy. With Sophia, my life partner, and Lucas, Daniel, and Ethan, my business partners and best friends, I am filled with gratitude. I vow to stay true to my roots and continue striving for excellence.